It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for December 15th, 2022. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, someone needs to steal Bacalar's credit card because we need to book a trip to Super Nintendo World, baby.
Oh, easy.
But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Jan Ochoa. Jan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I inhaled a cold Taco Bell taco from last night before this.
Ooh, yeah.
So I'm at peak performance right now.
Yes, you are in the zone there. That
Yes.
is, I got a chorizo sandwich from Speedway yesterday morning before the final day of our Game of the Year deliberations, and I ate about a quarter of that before I realized that this is on the lower tier of Speedway gas station food. I'm a connoisseur. I love gas station food. I will always love gas station food. The problem is, Jan, is that the Sheetz is just a little bit further down the street, and you go to a gas station and get food because you're in a hurry. And so it's like going a little bit further, it's hard to justify that, but it is Sheetz, so I should just buck up, knuck up, and go to Sheetz. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Get on your feet and walk to Sheets.
That's what I always say. And then when you get tired of feeting, pee in your shoes and float there. That's how it works.
Exactly.
Jan. You understand.
That's how they came up with the concept of soap shoes, is
That's
that
right.
they needed to put so much soap in them because people kept peeing in their shoes as they tried to float places.
Is it Peter Pan where he tries to get his shadow to stick to him with the soap? He rubs soap on his feet. Like, this is one of the very few non-racist scenes in Peter Pan. Or maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know what the soap on the feet means. Maybe there's something there.
I thought it is. I thought that Wendy just sewed his shadow onto him.
Well, she does. She helps him, but he's sitting there like being miserable, being like, I can't get my shadow to stick to me with this bar of soap I'm rubbing on my feet. And she looks at him like, this is the dumbest fucking kid I've ever met in my life. I'll sew this on there. I think that's how it goes.
Years
I haven't seen that movie in a
later,
while.
I'm going to let my daughter marry him.
Yes,
Man, the
exactly.
Peter Pan universe is just
right,
messed up.
man. Yeah,
it's just all messed up, and I love it.
Yep, it's a very anime timeline. Absolutely, of course, you love it.
Oh my god!
All right, let's get into this mess. But before we do, let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. Hello, Twitch. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. Shouts to RSS gang. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. Yusef too. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with Super Nintendo World US opens on February 17th. I am very excited about this, Jan. This is from the description on the YouTube video that they put up, which I'll get up here in a second. Super Nintendo World takes you into the world of Super Mario. Battle Team Bowser on the groundbreaking Mario Kart ride. Play interactive games throughout the land and track your score with a power-up band. Dine at Toadstool Cafe. Meet Mario and friends. Purchase exclusive merch at the 1UP Factory store. Opens at Universal Studios Hollywood, February 17th, 2023. Jan, I really want to go.
Me 3.
I really want to go. Yes, we were trying to call dibs if that's how anything works. It was you, me, and Dan calling dibs on it, and we'll see if we can make something happen. But at the very least, I will get there at some point in my life.
Yes, I will happily follow the both of you around with a camera.
Yes,
and think of all the shenanigans. It writes itself. It writes itself.
It is the one. This looks, it is a copy of what's in Japan, what's been in Japan. I think it's missing one of the features, one of the attractions. I can't. Maybe it's the Yoshi ride. I think now that I think about it, because it's like that's not listed here. And that's like an all families ride where you're slowly on the back of Yoshi. That's probably what it is. I'm glad the Mario Kart ride is there. That's the big one. But at the very least, it's like, this just looks like a good time. Taking a family there, going to eat at that Toadstool or the Toad Cafe. Yeah, take me there. That sounds like a good time.
Gosh, I can't imagine how impacted Universal Studios is going to become. I know they had like a huge spike when Diagon Alley or the Harry Potter section of the park opened up. And I know that they've been able to like kind of revitalize attendance to the park, partially because Disneyland itself has gotten so expensive. But man, having this little Super Mario Land or Super Nintendo World open up is going to do gangbusters for them.
Yeah, I'm expecting so, and that's all timing together nicely with the movie coming out here pretty soon. Obviously, Universal's working on that with them. Just seems like it is all coming together, and there should be a lot of excitement for this. I really want the Orlando one to open. That one's going to be even bigger, and then seems like they're going to just go right into building all the other attractions. There's a Donkey Kong extension going to the Japanese park, so I would assume that's going to come here as well. I'm like, I would love to see that. What do you want to see next from a Super Nintendo World when they maybe expand beyond just Mario? Because it is Super Nintendo World.
That's true, isn't it? I would like a huge mountain, like in Breath of the Wild, that I can just fall all the way down on. Not even a slide, like tumble and stumble all the way down.
Just
like a
loose body stumbling down. Absolutely.
Exactly. Just put me in a potato sack.
Yeah.
Just give me some apples at the end of it. It'd be great.
Yeah. Just some ragdoll physics in real life. Let's see what that feels like. The other cool thing, that One-Up Factory merch store. Of course, merch is of course they're selling it. They got some really cool stuff in that Japanese store where it is very tied into the theme that they have going at the time. And right recently, it's been it's winter. It's a snowy wonderland, and they've got some cool it's Christmassy Mario stuff. And yes, I'll show up just for that. Let me buy some of that stuff. Let alone going to eat at the Toadstool Cafe or punching a question block with the little bracelet thing. I guess that's also the new thing with these theme parks, right? Is the interactivity. Yeah. I mean, I haven't been to a ton of theme parks like this. When I was growing up, we lived pretty close to Cedar Point here in Ohio. That's a really good roller coaster park. It's a thrill. Mike will know. There's a different name for it. It's not a theme park. It's I don't know, some sort of thrill rides or whatever. And that's what I was used to. And we went to Disney once, and it's like, okay, well, things have changed a lot since I went as a kid in junior high. And I guess this is pretty similar to what they did with Harry Potter, where there's a lot of stuff to interact with. But it seems like they're taking this to the next level even. So seems fun.
I've been to Universal maybe like in the last 3-4 years, and the interactivity part, it's neat, but then it runs dry really quick.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
And also just because of the sheer masses of people, it's really hard to have that one-off experience that they're hoping to get, because so many people are now in line for those little bits of interactivity. That being said, I will happily again follow Jeff Grubb and Dan Reichert around in Universal Studios. Maybe we can hang out with Chris Son and race Chris Pratt around.
Yeah,
I'll turn around my opinion on Chris Pratt.
I bet he's a chill hang. I bet he pays for at least one of the meals at Toadstool Cafe.
He'll laugh, and then he'll look at his phone for a little bit of an extended time, and he'll feel a little awkward, but he'll still pay for the meal.
Yeah, and then he'll beat me up behind the Mario Kart ride for all the things I've said. Yeah, which is totally fair. I understand.
I get it.
Oh, I get it. All right, moving along, Apple may allow third-party app stores on iPhone in its next update. This comes from Daniel Pardis at gamesindustry.biz. Apple is reportedly planning to allow third-party app stores on iOS in its next major software update. That's according to Bloomberg. The move is being encouraged by the EU's new Digital Markets Act, which seeks to ban large platform holders from gatekeeping software on their devices. The new rule says that users must be allowed to install and use third-party apps, as well as be able to sideload software by downloading directly, something Apple has historically not permitted on its hardware. This will also give developers the option of which app store to release products on, which could mean circumnavigating Apple's 30% app store cut. Companies have until March 6, 2024 to comply with the rule. Bloomberg reported that Apple is still considering mandating certain security requirements, which includes verification on external apps and potential fees. It is also still undecided on whether to allow third-party payment systems, a move that led to a complex lawsuit between Apple and Epic Games last year. Now, this is what I've seen of this story, Jan. I read this news story, and I haven't dived into exactly what the requirements of the law would be and the actual legal terms. So, just based on this, what we can surmise from this is that this does feel inevitable at this point, that some form of sideloading, at the very least, alternative app stores, kind of at the best, coming to iOS. This should open up things like what has been a problem for Microsoft with putting cloud gaming apps on iOS, where instead it's like, oh, here's an app that opens up inside your browser, and you got to have a certain browser, and then you can play games, stream it through there. And it's not ideal, but it does work. Well, now they could just put out their own thing, and really they can even go as far as to put out what they were talking about as part of this acquisition with Activision and King, where, hey, we're going to get Call of Duty, we're going to get King, we're going to put all these things into a Microsoft App Store for mobile, and then make that available on your phone. Now, this is something that is possible on Android. It's been impossible on Android from the beginning. It is something that does work in China, where there's a lot of different stores there, but that's because the regulations sort of make it difficult for Google while making it much easier for homegrown app stores to put out games. Everywhere else, including Epic itself, has struggled to launch alternative app stores on Android, a much more open platform. So I kind of feel like Apple can do this and not really have to sweat losing a lot of money, right?
Yeah, it's interesting that it's the EU that is putting a lot of pressure on Apple lately, and then Apple's actually playing ball, because on top of this, there's a whole like USB-C port, charging cable, not debacle, but stuff that came out a couple weeks ago.
It's a bit of a debacle. I didn't realize that Lightning ports were still like USB 2.0, basically. That's like kind of shocking to me that it's kind of catch up there, guys. Come on.
Especially with how much they push, like, oh, you could make a movie with your phone.
Yeah.
And then trying to transfer those files over being USB 2.0. But getting back to the third party stuff, I think I'm just really surprised. I'm surprised. I for some reason I anticipate Apple still being a little bit bullish and like saying like, all right, 30% goes to maybe 10%, and then you can have your store over there. Some type of deal like that. I feel like this is huge given the major stupid drama between Apple and Epic from, gosh, when did that start? 2-3 years ago now?
Yeah, at least, man, it might have been 3 years, but it's at least 2 years. And yeah, I mean, this is they're still split on third-party payment systems. I think that's probably allowing third-party payment systems inside of its own app store, which it doesn't seem like it's going to do. And if it offers like this alternative to just say, hey, you can go ahead and put your own app store on here, they could probably get away with, continuing to avoid doing that. But that is a move that a company like Microsoft has embraced on Windows, where it's like, hey, we have the Windows Store. Not everyone uses the Windows Store. To encourage people to use the Windows Store, we are going to let every sort of developer use whatever payment system they want. So you can put your stuff on there, and if you don't want to give us a cut at all, you don't have to give us a cut at all. Basically, it's going to be like installing an app from the web now. And it's like, okay, that's cool. Apple's in just a completely different position, though. They make so much money from the money they cut from what developers make on iOS. That would be really detrimental to their top line revenue and their bottom line profits if they disrupted that market too much. But I think what they're seeing here is, again, going back to what we said at the beginning, this does feel inevitable. So how can they sort of embrace it from the beginning so that they can mitigate the worst aspects for them when it comes to making money, while also still complying with the law? And I think that's what they're trying to look at now. Like, let's just play along so that we can be best positioned as possible. And I think at the end, people probably will benefit here from having multiple app stores if that's something. If that's something like, okay, now developers feel like they can make a certain business model work, where previously giving up 30% of their revenue to Apple would have made it so impossible to actually make money that they won't even try it. Still, though, most people probably aren't going to install a third-party app store. Like, have you ever jailbroken your iPhone in the past?
I jailbroken like an iPod Touch, and then I remember maybe like after the initial awe of it wearing off, and then maybe perhaps acquiring games and ROMs, that it just made it run poorly, and then I just couldn't update my phone normally anymore. I had to go through like a whole process. So I definitely don't see a lot of Apple users going off and installing their own different third-party system. But I think I agree with your point of like, if Apple just embraces this from the get-go, they can get in on the ground floor and kind of like set the tone for how that relationship can be handled across the board in the future.
And I'll say, if people are looking for like where this benefits you, a lot of big companies have already tried to avoid the App Store fees Amazon. Like, you can't just go buy your, at least for a while there, I don't know if it's still this way, you can't just go buy your comic books through the comics app, which Amazon owns, because they're like, hey, just go buy them online or go to Amazon.com, and then you can buy your comics through there. And then we'll let them propagate on your Apple device. But if we try to sell them to you through there, then we have to cut in Apple on the money, and we just won't even do that. This should solve that problem at the very least. So it's like, okay, we're gonna get Microsoft Cloud Gaming, NVIDIA Shield, whatever it's called, NVIDIA GeForce Now, and then a handful of book and movie apps that will make a lot more sense now, because those can act as their own app stores, and then, or their own stores on mobile apps or whatever, content stores, and they could just direct you to a link to download that from the web on your phone, install it, sideload it, and just get going. I remember early in the Android days, I would install the Amazon App Store. This is when they were trying to kick off their Kindle Fire tablets or whatever. And it's like, so they had a whole bunch of apps, and what they would do is they give a bunch of apps away for free. And this is when most apps did cost money, so I would install that. But I didn't know anyone else who did that. So we'll kind of see if human behavior can change here at all. All right. VR mode will launch for Resident Evil Village and Gold Edition on PS5 alongside PSVR 2. On February 22nd, when the PSVR 2 launches, you will be able to boot up Resident Evil Village and Gold Edition and play those games, both versions of that game in VR on PSVR 2 for free. It's going to be a free DLC update. Is that something you're going to check back in on?
Maybe, perhaps. That sounds absolutely terrifying, but cool on Capcom for doing it.
That's how I feel, where it's like, okay, I saw some people in the replies to this on Twitter where they announced it, posted some scenes like, you want me to go through this in VR? I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't be able to handle that. But I know there's a lot of people who swear by Resident Evil in VR. I remember Mark McDonald, from 8.4, was just proselytizing Resident Evil 7 in VR, and saying how he would wait until late at night and wait for it to get dark, and when he was alone, and then you put on the VR headset. I'm like, you're a maniac. Please no. Even the idea of someone else doing that's making my heart beat way too fast. So
Jesus Christ, why?
I don't know. He's a maniac. That's the only explanation. But people do love that, and now it's available to them. I still don't think this is available for PC VR or has been announced to come to PC VR, which is, I mean, Sony is your partner. I get that. But it's like, yeah, man, I hope it does eventually come to PC VR, although I'm sure there's probably mods available. And as this version comes out, those mods might be even more likely, because I bet a lot of the hooks are right there in Village and Gold Edition as it gets updated for PS5 as well. Sticking with PlayStation VR 2 news, PlayStation VR 2 is getting a new Fantavision game at launch. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. Fantavision 22X will be released on February 22nd, 2023, alongside the new virtual reality hardware, and will be an entirely new entry in the series, powered by Unreal Engine. The original Fantavision was released on PlayStation 2, arriving just 5 days after the console launched in Japan in March 2000. It was then released as a launch title in North America and Europe, where reviews were generally above average. All right, Fantavision's back, baby. That's a fun one.
Yeah, that's pleasant news. I'm going to go buy a PSVR 2 right now, then.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to spend a lot of money to play Fantavision again. But, hey, I mean, if you're spending a lot of money, at least Fantavision's there. I guess for people that don't remember, Fantavision is a game where digital fireworks fire up in the sky, and then you got to sort of time your button presses with them as they explode. It was always a fun little, this is a nice little launch game for the PS2 when that was coming out. Yeah. It's one that's always stuck with me. I do always remember Fantavision, though, so maybe its time is due.
I as a child reading video game magazines, Fantavision, yes. I read the word Fantavision before I ever heard Eurovision. So when I found out about Eurovision, I was very confused that it wasn't a fireworks PS2 game. Yeah, you
assume it would be. Absolutely. Just European countries flying in the sky and exploding. That's what I assumed.
Du point.
That's my Duqua. PlayStation VR. Let me move on here. The Witcher 3's next-gen update is a mess on PC. People are complaining of extremely high VRAM usage, crashes when attempting to turn on certain graphical features, and other performance issues. So the Twitter account for The Witcher 3 posted this response. We are aware of the issues PC players have been reporting since last night's release of the update. We are actively investigating all of the reports and will be providing an update on particular issues as soon as possible. Thank you for your patience. So when I first saw this, I was like, okay, is there some specific thing that's not working? It's like, no, just in general, performance is kind of whack for Witcher 3 next gen on PC. People try to turn on ray tracing, it crashes. People try to just turn on certain graphical features, it crashes. Really low frame rates and then really super high VRAM usage. Like someone posted this, like one of the first replies I saw. Like, oh, I got like it's using 12 gigabytes of VRAM. That's most graphics cards don't even have half that much. That's a lot. So yeah, it's kind of weird. They've delayed this a bunch of times. You would think the PC version, their home base, the thing that like even Cyberpunk ran pretty good on PC. It's like, okay, that's weird that's broken there. What do you think's going on over at CD Projekt Red?
I don't know. It feels like maybe is it like a problem at the top of poor management?
Those were the stories for Cyberpunk, right? And it's like, is this that again? Like they knew, maybe they knew this was a problem. They're like, well, we got to push it out because we kept saying we would push it out. It's running good on consoles where the game's maybe selling better these days. I actually don't know if that's true, but maybe that's what the reasoning was. And like, we'll fix the PC version later. They're used to being an afterthought. They're not used to being an afterthought for CD Projekt Red though. So it's
yeah, exactly.
Playing with the reputation again.
I wonder on top of like maybe if it's like poor direction, maybe it's just people are spread very thin. Like perhaps folks are a lot of the team may be working on whatever is the next big thing. Some folks are trying to still fix Cyberpunk, and maybe it's a smaller team doing the Witcher 3 stuff right now.
Yeah, I mean this is an older game. You can put out a next gen update. This is like a next gen update, right? Because it's Witcher 3. Did it come out on Xbox? Well, I guess no. That's right. So no, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and then PlayStation 5. Okay, so this is like their next gen update. I still though, it's very old. You would assume that you would just kind of turn up some of the graphical features, and if something is causing performance to be really bad, you would think like, okay, well, it's an old game. We'll just turn that stuff down. People aren't going to notice that much of a difference, but I honestly, it must just be something underlying in this update that's breaking. Someone mentioned in chat that they worked with Saber Interactive on this. Saber Interactive is the studio that ported the game to the Switch. So it's like they are really good at optimizing The Witcher 3 so far. You would assume that there would be issues, but at the same time, Saber Interactive pretty small and has a lot of projects ongoing. That's the team that Knights of the Old Republic remake was originally going to be at a different studio. It got moved to Saber, so they got a lot on their plate. Maybe putting out good console versions got prioritized. The PC did get left behind, and that's just like, we did our best, but there were some issues here, and maybe they were worse than they actually thought. It's overall though, yes, I agree with Ludergen, and Saber did a great job. I like Saber a lot. They made SnowRunner, so they're a personal favorite of mine. All right, Epic is turning off online services and servers for some older games. Here's a quote from their blog post about this. Starting today, we will begin turning off out-of-date online services and servers for many older games in the Epic family as we move to solely support Epic Online Services with its unified friend system, voice chat features, parental controls, and parental verification features. Most titles will be playable offline, while some will no longer be playable at all. We apologize to the players affected by these changes. There was a list of games. Here's just some of them, the ones that stood out to me. Rock Band 1 through 3. Rock Band 4 online multiplayer will remain available. The Beatles Rock Band, Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-powered battle cars, which is the predecessor to Rocket League, actually, from that studio. I'm like, I didn't even know it was still online. That's kind of a shame. I'm like, I wish I would have known that. I would have tried it sometime. Unreal, and then basically all the Unreal games. Unreal Gold, Unreal 2, The Awakening, Tournament 2003, Tournament 2004, Unreal Tournament 3. But they did note Unreal Tournament 3 does have plans to come back online using the unified Epic Online Services. And then Unreal Tournament Game of the Year Edition is also getting taken down. This is, I guess this was bound to happen. It also reminded me, Epic owns Harmonix. So that is, the Rock Band is now part of the Epic family. But this happens, right, Jan? After a certain amount of time, these games just go offline.
It happens. It's always unfortunate.
Yes.
'Cause you want to be able to, I guess for like historical reasons as well, just be able to fire something up and just be able to pop on. I'm sure a lot of these communities, specifically the Unreal Tournament scene, I'm assuming there is like a means for players to just connect together and host their own servers. Maybe,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I would assume so. Yeah, I bet those communities have figured that out a while ago too.
Right, and especially with how a lot of folks can view Epic sometimes. I'm sure that they have made their they've been doomsday prepping for this. Still stinks. I mean, I get it. I 100% get it. They got to make space for Fortnite and
Right,
everything.
yeah. They can only put so many skins until they made some room on the servers, and now it's like, all right. I mean,
Exactly.
give me the Rocketeer, and I'll be fine. Yeah, you're right. It stinks. It's also inevitable. It's like these two competing elements that, of course, eventually one side, the side of everything eventually falling apart is going to win. Entropy is going to take us all in the end. So it has come for Unreal Tournament.
I guess it looks. Bogard points out in the Giant Bomb chat here that player-owned servers don't matter if the master server that lists all the servers goes away.
Well, then that's probably what the community will attempt to figure out. That stuff gets figured out like over time. Eventually, you have to kind of point your game to the community-run master server. I'm assuming. I'm no expert, but I don't know if they can get if they can get like servers for like Star Wars, galaxies running. I bet they can make a server run for these things eventually.
Also, I'm assuming like, hey, a lot of those people have only ever bought Unreal Tournament 2004 or whatever, and they're not coming back to the Epic Store to buy anything else. And I think they're just gauging like, okay, this player base, we're keeping the lights on, but they're not spending anything. So we're just going to turn the lights off and tell them to leave.
Yep. It's, at a certain point, it's like, yeah, we could just keep one server running for some of these games, but it's... you understand why eventually they're like, well, it's not just that server. It's also then we have to support people who like customers that come in and say, hey, this isn't working. And that takes time and money and it's a distraction. So, I get it, even though it stinks. Yeah. Ys 10 Nordics has been officially revealed for PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and Switch. I put this in here because I wanted to tempt my friend Jan here. Ys Memoir, the Oath in Felghana announced for Switch as well. Let's get this from Giuseppe Nelva at Twinfinite. Nihon Falcom has had relevant news to share with the fans of the Ys series of action JRPGs. Ys JRPGs. The first announcement in Ys 10 Nordics, or is Ys 10 Nordics, the reveal of the new mainline game of the series teased back in June. The game will be released in Japan for PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch next year. The game is set in Oberia Bay in the Northern Sea, where countless islands in large and small can be found. Their hero Adol Christian will meet the marine race called Norman and the undead Grieger that prey on locals. It features a solo mode where you can just play as one of the heroes, or a combi mode, which is allows you to take over all of the characters at the same time and issue commands to them. Combi mode, okay. And then the other one is that Ys Memoir, The Oath in Felghana, which is itself a remaster of a PSP game from 2005, which itself was a remake of a 1989 version of Ys 3 Wanderers. So they're updating that game once again. The PSP graphics have been upgraded alongside the sound effects and music, but you can also revert to the music of both the PC 8801 version and the X68000 version. So you can go back to the original versions if you wanted to. You ever play a Ys?
I've been Ys adjacent.
I've been Ys curious.
Ys curious for years now. I think I downloaded Ys 9 Nocturne.
Yeah,
whichever one.
I have that too.
I just bounced off of it. I feel like just the way that the Ys games are designed is just not my favorite flavor of JRPG.
I was kind of wondering, like, what like if you had played, that's what exactly I was wondering. Like, is it the kind of thing where, is it the action RPG? It is an action RPG, right? And is that side of things, or is it the way that they portray the characters and the story? Like, what is it hitting for you?
I think in both of those regards, at least in the Ys 9, I believe it started in the whole, I lost my memory, I don't remember anything.
Sure, yes.
And then, like, I'm just kind of tired of that trope. And also, I just don't like how the action feels compared. And I mean, we live in a world where games like Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok exist, and those feel good. That is just kind of hard to go to. I don't want to say simpler, but like a different type of third-person action game.
Yeah, these are games that I just remember primarily from gaming magazines again, where
Yeah.
I would see Ys mentioned, but what the hell is this? Why is and then people would talk about them, and I never fully understood what they were, and I never checked them out. I never got around to actually looking into it myself. And I did get curious about Ys 9. I do have it, never actually booted it up, but I know people have
love that series.
Love these games, and they really liked Ys 9. I think Ys 9 was really well regarded. So it's like, okay, it's definitely the kind of things where like I want to maybe just kind of peek in on it and see someone playing it at the very least. And maybe I should do that and check it out for myself. Okay, Justin Roiland explains how he got away with putting Space Applebees in High on Life. It's just a fun story from Jordan Midler at VGC. High on Life, which is the first-person shooter developed by Squanch Games, which was released earlier this week, is full of references and in-jokes. These include self-referential quips about video game cliches, name-dropped games media outlets like IGN and Kotaku, and some more direct references to real-life brands. This was highlighted by Gears of War creator, Cliff Bleszinski, who took to Twitter to post a screenshot of the in-game restaurant Space Applebees with the caption, how the hell did they do this legally? Greg Miller over at Kind of Funny posted a video talking to Justin Roiland, asking him how he did that. And Roiland, looking confused, was like, it's parody. It's a parody. And then Miller said, you're going to go to jail. That's I want to just kind of talk about this. I guess Cliff Bleszinski's job was probably not figuring out like what legally he could get away with in games, so it's probably not his area of expertise. But you can reference real things in media all the time. It's fair use, and I know that term scares some people away because it's never been fully tested in court, but it's like we've reached this equilibrium, and I mean like fully tested. Obviously, some elements have been tested in the past, like the People versus Larry Flint. It's a whole movie about that. I mean, in that movie, it's like Jerry Falwell sues for this kind of thing, where it's like, hey, they're using my likeness in here to make a commercial product that they sell, and they didn't get my permission. They shouldn't be allowed to do this. And it's like, well, this is a clear parody where they're saying you're having sex with your mother in an outhouse. Like, that's clearly parody. No one reasonable will believe that this is an actual letter from you. And so, okay, well, yeah. So, and I think Space Applebee's, like, no reasonable person will believe that is an actual Applebee's, I guess. There, right. The issue becomes, okay, is that enough of a parody? Is that enough of a social commentary? I think I haven't played High on Life. I could probably get away with being like, yeah, we're making jokes about society all the time, right? I don't know. You've worked in other mediums where you like are putting a camera at something and Applebee's might actually be in the background. Like that stuff, like, it's just mostly covered, right? Most TV shows understand that's fair use.
Yeah, I guess depending on the type of show,
sure.
Definitely. But I also feel like Justin Roiland's background in writing and making Rick and Morty, that he is used to navigating these waters already. I mean, like, let's look at the Chip and Dale movie from last year that had an obscene amount of other properties in it. And then the way that Lonely Island got around was just like, hey, it's fair use. It's just parody.
Mm-hmm.
So, that may be waters that he is more used to dealing with.
I think so.
Than game devs. And hey, to be fair, I feel like a lot of the time I will just say fair use, joking. And a lot of people will also say fair use, not completely knowing what actually is fair use.
The big thing there is it's a little bit impossible to know. We stream video games on the internet and we say fair use. And no one really knows if that would hold up in court. It's just we've reached this weird equilibrium between people who play, do this, make this kind of content that we make, and the people that put out those video games, where it's like, we just are all not going to sue each other, right? Like, if you sued us, I guess maybe we could sue you back, but why don't we just avoid that in the first place and just look for where this benefits everybody? And that's sort of where it's at right now. So it exists in a gray area. It's a pretty light gray area because most people are like, it seems like the lawyers have figured this out and are pretty comfortable with it. But people also see things like logos blurred out on on certain interview shows or stuff like that. I think usually that is, we don't want to put a brand on our show without them paying us to advertise, right? That's usually what that is.
Usually what that is, that, or you just don't want to create any type of relationship with said company that hasn't perhaps been vetted, or you don't want to come off that any money has been exchanged when there hasn't been any money. I spent a lot of time on the busting show. Not that busting show, y'all.
The
having to
not the one where busting makes you feel good, right?
Not where busting makes you feel good. The scientific mathematic busting, I guess.
Busting, yeah.
I spent a lot of time when I first started working on that show putting gaff tape or painter's tape over logos.
Oh, wow.
One time, even like a cherry picker, and that was an endeavor. Several rolls of tape were used.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. The thing I don't miss, Grub, sorry to
No, please, I want to
hear.
hear. This is very fascinating to me.
Like, these water bottles, crystal geysers, right? Or just what your prototypical water bottle. And everyone needs water on set. We would have to rip the labels off because we didn't want to show whether it was like Kirkland water or Arrowhead or Crystal Geyser. Like pretty much anything with a logo that was being consumed or even worn just had to like cover it up.
We did you guys have a method for like cleanly ripping it off so the label didn't have that weird like glue part on it so it looked bad on TV, or you guys just didn't care?
Just rip that shit off.
Hell yeah. Okay. Hell yeah. I love that. It's like, yeah, and I get that. I think you probably nailed the very specific one. You don't want to create the appearance of a relationship. It's like,
yeah,
if you can avoid that, I think at least certain sets probably really want to avoid that. And, this High on Life is the exact opposite, where it's like they do want to create a connection there so they can make a joke about it. And it's like, that's where fair use comes into play for sure. And it's like you guys would not have gotten in trouble had you left the labels on. It's just your show didn't want to have that appearance, right?
Yeah, it didn't want to create a relationship of like, oh, we're sponsored by this specific porta potty company. Also, occasionally, sometimes it just gives away specific locations for shoots as well. Like, oh, I don't want people to know that I'm specifically in this part of Treasure Island in the Bay Area. Treasure Island, which is a small garbage island. No honey buckets. I fucked with a different porta potty company because they treated me well.
Hell yeah, you gotta stick with your porta potty company. They treat you well once, they're always going to be there for you.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up with one more dip into Hollywood. God of War TV show details revealed as Amazon greenlights the series. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. The series, which has been in development since March, is being adapted for TV by showrunner Rafi Judkins, who most recently worked on The Wheel of Time, and writers Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostby, who worked on Children of Men, Iron Man, and The Expanse. All three are also serving as executive producers, as are Santa Monica studio head Yumi Yang and creative director Corey Barlog, and PlayStation productions boss Assad Kizilbash. According to the official show description, it looks set to follow the story of 2018's God of War series reboot, which was continued in the recently released sequel, God of War Ragnarok. Excuse me. Is that what you want, Jen? You want a show that is a retelling of the story of the most recent games?
No, because I feel like they nailed it so well with the game. And then I feel like this is one of those instances where like you being put in the shoes of Kratos works really well. I just don't completely have faith that they can pull it off as well as the game dev team behind God of War 2018 and Ragnarok have pulled off that.
Yeah, and it's also you're right. This story is pretty much how do you tell it better than what they did? I mean, that's the whole thing that people praise about this game is like it gives you a chance to really dive into the story and make big connections. I will say though, I do have one hope. If they do this, maybe we could get Dan Reichert to play Mimir. I think that would be possible. I think that is possible. Honestly, if we put it out in the world, I think it's likely to happen.
You know what? I can get behind this actually, and I feel like even though Dan would only have to be a talking head, they would still make him get yoked.
Yes, yes, absolutely. We just want the neck where it's like kind of we want the muscles there. So, and we can't do that in CGI, Dan. Sorry.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like they're gonna make Dan do like just strengthen his cheekbones so hard.
Yeah. I would very much like that. I will say I did get a little bit info about what's happening with Sony's Hollywood properties over the last couple of days. I want to always preface this with I'm not a Hollywood leaks guy. I struggle with being able to confirm these. I'm just gonna I will put them out there because I feel pretty good about them. But if these turn out to be wrong, it's because I don't. This is a space I don't typically work in. But I figured it'd be fun to kind of share it with everybody. So let's see here. The God of War writers are going to begin writing the show in February. So this show does have that team that's coming together. They're planning to start in February. The Horizon TV show, meanwhile, did just start that exact process recently. So they've begun writing the show, and different than what I reported previously, this is one of the reasons I'm like, this is hard to track down. That where I said, they're going to do a show that takes place kind of as the society is falling. It sounds like, no, this is actually going to be a retelling of the game, just like the God of War show. So it's like, okay, how do you feel about that one?
Oh, that I don't mean to disparage Horizon too much, because I feel like we did joke around about Horizon a lot during Game of the Year discussions, but I just don't have interest in a Horizon TV show. I'm sure it'll look very colorful, but I just it's not for me. Unless they make real animatronic robots. That
would be very cool. I would like just get the Jim Henson Company to work on it. That could be very cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know folks are saying we're not the audience. We're almost never the audience. Siegfried ZSM.
Yes, I agree with that.
100% agree with that. I would like to be the audience. You know?
Right,
cool.
What are we supposed to say? Like, we're not the audience, so we have nothing to say. Like, it's basically what we're saying, but still, it'd be nice to be excited about some of these things. But yeah, when he says, we're not the audience, what that means is, I didn't watch The Witcher show, and I didn't watch the anime for Cyberpunk. I know a lot of my friends did do those things, but I didn't. And yet, there's a massive audience of people who hadn't played those games before, who did watch that stuff, and then went to the games, and that continues to be what Sony wants here. So we say this every time this subject comes up, but it's still true, and that's, making it closer to the games probably does make sense if you want people to be excited to go play the game that continues that story or does give you a different way of experiencing that story. And it's you also already know that many people do like that version of the story because they were good games that were well reviewed and all that stuff.
Yeah, we're already in the system. They're trying to get more people in the system.
Absolutely. Let's see here. The Twisted Metal show, that one that starts, is it Anthony Mackie? Yeah, I think it's Anthony Mackie. They're already being asked to pitch their second season of the show. So you pitch it. I don't honestly, Jan, do you have insight into that? If you filmed a show and it's in post-production, hasn't come out yet, and then you get a meeting to pitch the show, is that a good sign? Or what? What do you think?
Generally, that's a good sign. I mean, a lot of this stuff will be previewed towards execs, and stuff has been tested several times. I'm not 100% sure how far along the Twisted Metal show is, but given that it has Anthony Mackie attached, Will Arnett as Sweet Tooth's voice,
Samoa Joe as Sweet Tooth body.
His Sweet Tooth body. God, I just want to be known as that from now on. A lot of this stuff can just get renewed as during the process, especially if even without some of that stuff being screened, producers or execs seeing how well it looks even on set sometimes can inspire them to have a pitch be renewed for the next season. Also depends on how short the first season has been ordered for. If it's 8 episodes as a preview, they could get renewed for a 10 episode season the following season.
Right. That makes sense. I'll say for Twisted Metal, what I really want is for them to just have, it's just Samoa Joe acting there, and then for the voice. Oh yeah, go ahead. For the voice, what they should do is they should do what the Conan O'Brien show used to do, and just cut out the mouth and just have Will Arnett's mouth in there talking, doing all the flapping of his lips and actually speaking. I think that would be literally the best thing they could do, and I'm 100% serious. Finally, the Uncharted 2 movie is looking for a new writer. Do with that what you will. I don't know. Yeah, looking for a new writer. Okay. All right, finally, this final news story just popped off right as we were about to wrap up the news. Amazon Games is publishing the next major Tomb Raider game, and it's going to be a multi-platform release. Let me go here and see if I can get what's happening here. Yeah, I don't know. This just happened. I missed this. I didn't miss it. It literally just happened. So Let me read this. This is Wario64 gathering this up for us from what I believe is a press release. Amazon Games and Crystal Dynamics today announced they have reached an agreement under which Crystal Dynamics will develop a new multi-platform Tomb Raider title, with Amazon Games providing full support and publishing the game globally. The as-yet untitled new Tomb Raider game is a single-player, narrative-driven adventure that continues Lara Croft's story in the Tomb Raider series. It includes all the elements that have made Tomb Raider one of the most revered franchises in gaming, giving players control of the confident and multi-dimensional hero Lara Croft in an environment that rewards exploration and creative pathfinding. With it has mind-bending puzzles to solve and a wide variety of enemies to face and overcome. Blah, blah, blah. Here's a quote. Tomb Raider is one of the most beloved IPs in entertainment history, said Christoph Hartmann, VP of Amazon Games. Amazon Games is committed to bringing players games of the highest quality from the best developers across all variety of platforms and genres, and we're honored by the opportunity to work with this story developer and franchise. Then Crystal Dynamics says, Crystal Dynamics has an extraordinary opportunity following our acquisition by Embracer to redefine what a publishing relationship is for Tomb Raider. And that's Scott Amos, head of studio at Crystal Dynamics. Transformative is what we're looking for, and with Amazon Games, we found a team that shares our creative visions, ambitions, and values for a Lara Croft universe across the spectrum of possibilities. They're uniquely positioned to rewrite what publishing and development collaborations are, and we're eager to forge this new path together, starting with building the biggest and best Tomb Raider game yet. Okay, so I've read you the news. Let's take a second to digest this. This sounds like, and I definitely want Scout's input. I hope Scout's doing okay. That it sounds like this is Embracer looking for partners to make things make more financial sense. Tomb Raider was always going to be probably the biggest game that the Embracer Group and its many subsidiaries was ever going to put out. And did it have the capacity to do that? Probably not. It probably was always going to struggle with that, and it was always going to be a question. I think bringing in Amazon publishing, Amazon Games doesn't necessarily solve those problems. Oh man, Scott's going to town. It doesn't necessarily solve those problems because Amazon only has so much experience putting out big games like this, but Amazon does have a lot of money, right?
Amazon has an obscene amount of money. The thing that I'm transfixed about is that I feel like in the same way, excuse my language here, boomers will talk about like, or let's just say uninformed parents and grandparents will talk about like, oh, Super Mario, oh, Nintendo.
Yes, the proverbial grandma asking for a Wii and getting a Wii U or whatever instead or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And then just like they've made that association that like Super Mario is the video game. But also, I'm not 100% sure why Lara Croft and Tomb Raider has also occupied that same real estate in folks' brains. That it feels like is Amazon just going with Tomb Raider and Lara Croft because it is like, oh, this is a name we recognize. We can maybe spin this off into something.
Yeah, I think that it's the kind of thing where I think you're onto something. Where this is probably the biggest free agent that Amazon Games could have gone out and got, right? I agree that I'm with you. Where I think it's a little bit strange that Tomb Raider and Lara Croft occupied that space, but it does. It just does. It was really big on the PlayStation, and it's maintained a lot of that momentum, and it's had some ups and downs. But its most recent trilogy kind of like it thrusted itself out there as, no, this is a big deal and people really cared about it. It's never been Mario to me, but I think Lara Croft was a lot of people who were getting into gaming with the PlayStation kind of maybe was their Mario a little bit. And at the same time, it has been bouncing around from acquisition to acquisition. And now it's at this Embracer Group, and Embracer Group has made it clear that they are, they spent a lot of money making acquisitions. And now that maybe is coming home to roost now, where it's like, okay, we have to actually figure out the best pathway forward to make all those acquisitions make sense. And somehow that came to let's go work with a different company, take their money, let them publish this game that we still own the rights to, but let them just handle from here. It is still a strange thing because you get why a Microsoft or Sony want to go out and take someone else's IP and publish it as a game, especially if it's going to be exclusive to their thing. But even like these days, maybe not exclusive, but have some sort of benefit on their console. Amazon doesn't necessarily have that same. I guess they have Luna, but this is going to be multi-platform. So I don't know. Like, this is not going to move the needle on Luna, right?
No, I remembered Luna while we were talking about this, but I guess I didn't think about them perhaps not caring about their own platform
Yeah.
to make this like a multi-platform game.
I think
Weird.
they probably never would have been able to make this deal happen if they were like, we're going to make it exclusive to Luna, right? Because
Sure.
first, it probably wouldn't make financial sense, but also I think Embracer would have been like, no, we're not doing that. And honestly, I have no idea what the appetite is at Amazon to make exclusive games for Luna. They seem to be fine to be this offshoot thing off to the side that is another way to get some games that barely anyone uses, but maybe it grows over time. Who knows? It's still, you wonder what the terms are to make this make sense for everybody involved. I think that Amazon Games does want to get experience in this space. They've put out a couple games now. Some have been, pretty monumental failures. I can't remember their Counter-Strike clone that came and went. But, they also had New World, the MMO that did come out and has stuck around, and people seem to like that well enough.
Yeah. I still see friends actually playing that.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough.
Yeah, so it's like they have experience in some aspects of creating and putting out games now. But AAA games that are marquee titles has always been something that a newcomer like Amazon over the last 10 years has never really been able to pull off. You haven't been able to just come into the space, declare yourself a video game company, and then put out something equivalent to a modern Tomb Raider. Maybe this is a way to build up, the bona fides and to build up the experience necessary from the publishing side of what that takes. And long term, maybe Amazon could be like, okay, is this something that makes sense for us? And they could be eyeing Embracer if that makes sense. Maybe they end up just purchasing Embracer to make this make sense. And this is like a testing period for them. I don't know. I don't really know if the testing periods is something that happens as these companies consider acquisitions, but it feels like that's a possibility here. Yeah. I know it's a big deal. You got like any other thoughts on it before we move on?
I'm thinking. Oh gosh, I had a thought. This whole thing with Embracer now owning the Tomb Raider IP and then seeking someone else to publish the game feels like a real estate scam where you are saying you're going to buy a house, but then you have someone else buy the house, so you get some type of closing cost money out of it.
Finder's fee, yeah, sure.
Exactly, like the finder's fee, and you virtually are not exchanging any money in this because you kind of own it. But at the same time, I guess like if and this is going to happen, right? This is a done deal at this point.
Yep, it's happening.
Okay, well, get ready to see Tomb Raider all over Twitch whenever this comes out.
Oh yes, absolutely, yeah. And it's they have a pipeline that's like this vertical integration over at Amazon that seems like it should be very, very powerful. It's just the hard part of that vertical integration has always been the making of big games, and they had many false starts, and they weren't alone. This is not like an Amazon problem. This is an industry-wide problem because Google obviously had the same issues where they tried to step in the space, and then the day before they're launching Stadia, they're like, and we're going to start our own studios and make games. And it's like right when you see it delivered in that tone, I'm like, I never believe that. I don't think you're ever going to release a game. And here we are, Stadia shut down. Amazon has been landing a few more punches than Google ever did. And it seems like they are much more sober about what gaming requires. And at the same time, I think they're sober to the point where like they're not sure if they have the appetite to just go in there and swallow up a Ubisoft or hire as many people as a Ubisoft has, because that's, Amazon's a massive company. And even if you just look at like their corporate employees that would be considered like software engineers, they're a pretty massive company. But even then, you would be adding a lot of engineers to go and start making games like that. So it's like I think this is them dipping their toes in a way that I think we see Netflix doing. Netflix has been, hey, we want to be in games. We see this as a future of creating more value to get more subscription revenue. So we're going to start small with mobile games. We're going to start with some interactive video stuff. And now we keep acquiring developers, and there's smaller studios, but eventually we're building up more and more. And now we have our own AAA studio that's going to make a game. And that's going to take some time. But that's just going to be one offer of many. That's not the only thing we're doing. We're still this small gaming operation that's building up slowly over time. And I think it's probably the right place for Amazon to be, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because this feels like a lot of what was going on in like the early 2000s with like other companies becoming game publishers or putting money into games and then them not seeing the immediate returns.
Yes.
Because didn't this happen similarly, like with Disney and like LucasArts, like around the 2000s, and then Disney massively pulled out of games, but now they're like
Disney's had multiple instances of going all in on games, buying a lot of developers. What is it? Was Split Second Disney? Stuff like that.
I think it was, yeah.
A lot of games in the 2000s. You're right, where it's like Disney's like, hey, we're developing stuff ourselves, and then it's like, oh, this is hard, and the juice might not be worth the squeeze. We give up, and we're just gonna do licensing deals. And then that bit them in the ass the other way, because then the pandemic comes along. All of their businesses are getting screwed over, and now they don't have a games business to rely on when gaming was growing, hand over fist. So it's Disney's like also looking for their entry into this, and they've mostly found that by saying, John Drake, go make 1 million deals, and they are making 1 million deals, and that seems to be working fine for them.
John Drake is killing it. If anyone at Disney is listening, John Drake is an amazing person.
Yes, Marino points out all that Buena Vista stuff. Right, Buena Vista was their the adult movie, not adult, mature films, and then also video games and stuff. And that label I don't think exists anymore. All right, we let's wrap up by going to the poll, everybody. Always fun when news breaks right when we're doing the show. I actually do enjoy that. Let's go to news assets. Bring it up here. This comes from, I don't remember when, December 9th? Who could remember when that is? I have no idea. Maybe Friday? I can't remember. I asked, what do you think the chances of the Microsoft Activision deal going through are now? And this was after the FTC sued to stop the deal. 37.7% think it will go through. 49% think it probably will go through. Meanwhile, 10.4% say it probably won't go through. And then just 2.9% say it definitely won't go through. So I've been thinking a lot about this, Jan, since that happened. And I remember that day I was like, man, I think there's still like a 60-40 chance that it gets through the FTC. But when you layer on top the CMA and the EU with that, I could see Microsoft being like, it's not worth it, because right now, if we cut the deal short right now, we owe $2 billion to Activision. If we wait, that scales up and it goes to $3 billion. And then so we have to pay an extra $1 billion. And we could look at this as we're just going to save $1 billion by pulling out now. Since then, Microsoft has made it very clear, I think, that they don't intend to pull out. Now, it could look stupid, and that could be wrong, but it feels like right now that's where they're at, where they are going to fight this. And if that's the case, their case against the FTC, at the very least, is pretty strong, and they have multiple opportunities to get around it or to defeat it in court or whatever. So I'm kind of leaning back towards what the audience is leaning towards, and it does still pass. Where are you at now?
I think I'm in the same exact boat. I think you were talking about this on Twitter, and excuse me if I'm putting words in your tweets. I kind of feel especially bad for the existing Activision employees.
That's where I'm at. Yes.
Yeah, that no one really looks forward to a corporate takeover or like a corporate sale, right?
This shouldn't be the solution to problems, right? That's what the response I got on Twitter was. It's like, I don't think this is a good solution. I'm like, well, of course it's not. It's a nightmare, but it is the solution on the table that really could solve problems for the people working under Activision.
Exactly. Yeah,
I'm hoping that's the case, right? Because it's like Microsoft. I think, as far as we can tell, a little bit better than working at Activision. It's still a corporation. It's by definition trying to exploit people for their labor to create value for shareholders. Like, of course, that's all still true, but Bobby Kotick is a special kind of scumbag. Like, I mean, what else do you want me to say? And now, even if he gets his golden parachute, okay, I'm still doing the arithmetic in my head, Jan, where I'm like looking at like, okay, yeah, he gets his golden parachute. That sucks. The bad guy wins. But I still think that the people working under him would be better off of Bobby Kotick getting his golden parachute and going away, which again, 100%. We're assuming would happen, but I do assume that's going to happen.
And I mean, like, a lot of folks can say, like, why don't these people working at Activision that feel uncomfortable working underneath this management, why don't they just leave? Y'all, it's really hard. It's really hard to leave, because sometimes you move for specific jobs. And like, you wind up developing a community, you wind up growing a family wherever you are.
Yeah.
That it isn't as easy to move. It stops being easy to move around.
Oh, so you didn't do anything wrong, and he did. Bobby Kotick did.
That's especially the thing. It's like, you didn't do anything wrong. You wanted to work here and everything. you can't help that the person up top is a massive, massive piece of poop.
Yeah, and Marino again in chat saying there's this thing called medical insurance, and it's like if we did have universal healthcare here, I think this would be a little bit different. People would have that safety net to take risks in their career. It is very hard to take a risk in your career in the United States because of the way this stuff's set up, and especially if you have dependents, it's no chance. Like there is a reason that so many of your favorite like YouTube creators are in Canada and the UK. Like there's a reason, and it's not just that they sound funny on camera and people like that. It is also that they could take this risk in the first place, and it paid off for them.
And I mean, there's also a reason why bigger YouTubers in America wind up starting their own corporation or joining a bigger corporation eventually because of stuff like insurance.
Yep, stability and absolutely. All right, let's do a poll question for today. Actually, while I come up with something real quick, Jan, what do we have going on tomorrow on Giant Bomb and for the rest of the today?
So for the rest of today, we've got an episode of the voicemail dump truck featuring the windbag himself. That's right. We're going to pull the forks back out and answer some lovely voicemails. Still time to get some voicemails in. 707-EXIT-FLU is the number. Jeff Grubb is going to do another episode of Game Mess Mornings tomorrow. And we're still kind of loosely planning the week. I think the team is a little bit worn down from overall Game of the Year. Which all of it's out now, folks. You can go listen to it. You can go watch it. I, honest to God, think it is some of the smoothest and nicest, nicely organized discussions we've had in compared to stuff in the past, where sometimes at the end, especially when it comes to the top 10, it feels like we're all just dragging feet and we're all just super duper tired.
Yes.
I really liked how we came up with it this year, and shouts out to Dan for really spearheading that process of figuring it out.
It was a thought where I'm like, is that what we need? And it's like, it turned out like, because it was exactly the kind of thing where by that point in the discussion, we did have all the interesting things to say. And obviously we didn't have a big, long knockout, drag out about the top games on the list. We didn't go and point out all the things that actually did bother us about Elden Ring or Vampire Survivors and all this other stuff. But I think those are games that have been so well covered over the year by us that it wasn't as necessary as that 15 to 25 space where a lot of those games got a lot of discussion. And that was the most fun for me. And then at the end, it's like, okay,
totally.
Well, we figured out that 20 list is fantastic. If you want something that just feels like this is Giant Bomb picking games, putting them on a list, that top 20 is, unranked is great. And then the way we did come up with the top 10 was dramatic and fun. And people are like, hey, there should be a blind vote. I kind of like people coming in there trying to play Kingmaker at the end. Because again, it's all kayfabe. It's all.
And I mean that's where I really like, if people were desperate for the drama or the wheeling and dealing, I definitely feel like some of that came out in getting to the top 20 games.
Absolutely, yes. It was good. It was chaotic. I really had a ton of fun.
I don't want to spoil the top 10 or anything, but it definitely felt indicative of had we gone through the whole process of talking about games and dragging it out and really taking wild swings at each other, it would have came out the way it looks.
I think so too. It looks exactly like what that list absolutely could have ended up as. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, there was a lot of passion.
Yeah,
there was still a lot of passion, folks.
Absolutely, and listen to it. It's a good time. I think we're proud of it. Is what we're trying to say. So definitely listen to it. All right, Jan. Thank you so much for spending time with me today to talk about video games. I really appreciate it.
I am having the time of my life every Thursday morning.
Thanks, dude. And thanks to Scout. Shout out to that good little girl. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. You're the best audience of gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.